session here in juvenile delinquency. Now, last meeting, we had a short discussion about what juvenile delinquency is. We first defined juvenile as a person who is below 18. Now, delinquency, we had defined it in a sociological perspective, acts that are not fully or uh, really accepted in our society. And these norms are most basically used uh, are usually based pala in our customs and traditions. So if we did an act that that is not part of our custom and traditions, well, it is considered as a delinquent act. But in the legal viewpoint, this delinquency is the commission of an act that violates the law. Sa study kasi ng juvenile delinquency, we must first identify kung bakit, why, where, where did this where did delinquency come from, and how it came to be. We use sociological perspective, but in order to intervene, we use the legal viewpoint or perspective in identifying or knowing which acts are delinquent and when are we going to intervene. Now, juvenile delinquency is ano, the delinquent act done by a juvenile. Okay? So, do not be confused kapag nag-study tayo about juvenile delinquency, sociological perspective. Kapag yung when we talk about, let's say, intervention, punishment, or kung ano yung mga laws, we use the legal viewpoint. Okay? So, I remember last week I asked you to identify what are the major differences between the juvenile justice system and the adult justice system. Now, una is that there are laws that are done by adults that are not punishable or are not considered as delinquent acts. But if done by a minor, it is punishable or it is considered as a delinquent act. Now, these acts or these violations are called status offenses. These are non-criminal acts that are considered a law violation only because of a youth status as a minor. Now, an example of this is truancy, yung pag-skip ng klase. Kung ikaw ay isang college student, mag-skip ka ng klase, you are not considered as a juvenile, what we call this, truant. But wala lang. Kasi isa ka ng adult. But if you are a minor, nag-skip ka ng class, umalis ka ng bahay pero diretso ka sa computer cafe, then you are a delinquent. And even though it is not a criminal act, it is not punishable by by imprisonment, well, you are violating a law na bawal yun sa mga minors. And another status offense is yung underage drinking. Hindi pwede ma-apply yung underage drinking sa hindi underage. Underage smoking. Ano pa ba? Curfew. Well, kung wala pa itong pandemic, curfew only applied to minors. Pero sa ngayon, hindi naman masyadong strict. Kasi konti lang yung mga law enforcers natin. But technically, offense yun. Though not a criminal act, not punishable by imprisonment, it is still a commission of a violation of the law. Now, the next difference is the reason for punishment. In the adult criminal justice system, yung reason is retribution. You are being punished because you violated a law or the law. Next is vengeance. Main reason of vengeance is to appease the offended party, to calm them down. Kasi kung walang vengeance, ano, let's say namatayan sila, pinatay yung kanilang family member, they will not stop until justice has been served. Though, iba yung justice, iba yung vengeance, pero kapag nandun tayo sa point na yon, na yung family member natin ay pinatay or kinahasa, parang parang it feels the same. But actually, ang difference nila is yung reason kung bakit ah, nahuli, nabigyan ng punishment or nakulong. Next is incapacitation. It is the ability of making a person unable to move freely, incapacitate. Yung parang kunin mo yung freedom niya. So, through what? Through imprisonment. So, kasali na dito yung incapacitation, yung segregation, yung pag-separate sa criminals sa non-criminals. Next is deterrence. Deterrence, to deter, to discourage other peoples in committing crime because of that punishment. Next is rehabilitation. To rehabilitate, to repair, to reform. Synonyms lang yun. So, even in the adult criminal justice system, meron pa ring rehabilitation because the law, the government, our constitution values the life of each person. Now, dito naman, sa juvenile justice system, yung iniisip ng government is ang best interest of the child. The juvenile justice system is based on the notion that every child is treatable, kayang i-treat, kayang gamutin, and that judicial intervention will result in positive behavioral change. Na kung papasok na yung government, yung mga laws natin, the child will, magbalik loob. Okay. So, yan yung dalawa, yung major differences aside doon sa on how law is applied. We will later on discuss it kapag dumating na tayo sa mga different kinds of laws related sa juvenile justice system. Okay? Now, in order to really understand delinquency, we must first know how it came to be. Now, these four stages are the stages that were theorized on how delinquency came to be. Sa man si Sir katuyok-tuyok ra. Actually, okay, first is emergence. Yung pag-sibol, pag-start. So, child begins with petty larceny, simple theft, pag-nakaw. Kanino? Sa kanilang parents. Between 8 and sometime during the 12th year. So, dito nagsisimula sa parents. Even simple lies like, ma, nami amo tunon sa school, bisag 10 pesos na, gihimog 20. So, wala, extra pagkaon na sa kantin. Well, that is for the fortunate people or fortunate child na may kaya yung mga parents nila. Pero dun sa mga walang kaya, parang mahirap maging, yung gawin yung petty larceny. Pero it could be na pwede nilang gawin sa ibang tao. So next stage is exploration. They will try to explore, to expand kung ano yung kaya nilang gawin. May move on to shoplifting and vandalism between ages 12 to 14. Well, sa panahon ngayon, younger na. Hindi na nag-a-apply yung age dito. Yung iba, yung mga candies lang, bibili ng ice, tapos sabay kuha ng candy kasi malapit lang. Okay, next is explosion. Dito, sasabog na talaga. At age 13, there is a substantial increase in variety kung ano yung klaseng crime. Mag-iiba na and seriousness. So, dati, it could be that they were challenged, parang napilitan ka lang. Dito sa explosion stage, seryoso ka na. Gusto mo talaga magnakaw. Tsaka dito sa conflagration, yung kung sa Bisaya pa ni silaob na ay mong pakadelinkwente na lisod na kay kapalungon at around 15, four or more types of crimes are added. Nadadagdagan na. Okay, so these are the main stages of delinquency. Next is classification of delinquency. Now, why do we need to classify delinquency? Ano ka, sir, no? Well, the main reason is that there are different approaches to reform a delinquent person. And in order to successfully reform, dapat ilagay natin sila sa classification. Now, unsocialized aggression, these are the delinquents that were rejected or abandoned and they have no parents to imitate and they become aggressive. Simple. Dahil sa iniwan sila, sinaktan, pinaubaya. So they become delinquents. Next is socialized delinquent. Membership in fraternities or groups that advocate bad things. So this is a type of delinquency in which the group or fraternity do bad things. They support bad things. Well, it could be for different reasons. It could be just for fun or for what we call this monetary gain to or they want more control. So whatever the reason is, as long as they are a member of a group and they advocate bad things or bad actions, then they are under the classification of socialized delinquency. Next is over inhibited. Group secretly trained to do illegal activities like marijuana cultivation. So dito sa group na to, parang wala na talagang reason. They have no freedom, focused na lang sila sa mga illegal activities. Okay? Aside from marijuana cultivation, pwede sila sa racketeering, ano pa bang mga yan, sa drugs. So kahit na pwedeng kidnap for ransom. Okay? Dito kasi, we are not talking about juveniles, but delinquency as in general. So, hindi sa classification delinquency, hindi lang focus sa juveniles. Okay? So, please remember these three classifications. Next is pathway to delinquency. Now, first is authority conflict pathway. It begins at early stage with stubborn behavior. This leads to defiance and then to authority avoidance. So, nagsisimula daw, etong pathway is yung daan. Daan, road to mythic, road to delinquency. Now, dito, yung child daw, before he becomes a delinquent, he has a stubborn behavior. Yung kanyang temperament is, hindi easygoing. Now, kung if this is not addressed at early stage, it will lead to authority defiance. So, saan nagsisimula yung kaniyang pag-defy. Of course, sa parents. Dili na siya motuo kung suguon. Ana, ina sa maestra, okay, pagtutoy ha kay ugma kuan. Bisag kabalon siya nga exam, di siya motuo. Dito nagsisimula. And then, kalaunan, ano, mo-avoid na sa authority. Yung, ano na, dili na mo, sa tawag ani, dili na mo pakita. Ano lang, bisag, basta ka nang murag, this is one of the hardest kasi to one of the hardest to reform kasi gagawa sila ng paraan para ano, para to lessen the contact with the authorities. Okay? Mas mabuti kasi yung ano, yung may contact yung authority kahit hardcore criminal na siya kasi nabibigyan ng chance. Pero dito, kapag ano, nag-avoid na siya sa authority, parang closed na yung doors to change. Kaya, ano, so, parang ano ba, kung nag-away kayo ng girlfriend mo, mas okay pa yung bungangera kasi may conversation. Meron pang patutunguhan yung conversation nyo, yung pinag-usapan nyo, kesa sa yung silent treatment. Mas mahirap yun. Well, anyway, next is covert pathway. Begins with minor underhanded behavior that leads to property damage. This behavior eventually escalates to more serious forms of criminality. Now, isa din ito sa pinakamahirap kasi covert nga, hindi nakikita o konti lang yung nakikita mo. So, magugulat ka na lang pagdating ng panahon, wow, nahuli ng shabu yung anak niya. Okay. Kasi hindi kasi alam ng parents. Kasi nakatago. Sikreto yung kanyang road to mythic. Now, next is overt pathway. Escalates to aggressive acts, beginning with aggression and leading to physical fighting, and then to violence. Now, when we talk about aggression is not an emotion, but a temperament. Yung isang tao na, and yung medyo close ito sa irritable, yung aggression. And aggression is a temperament, meaning it is inherited. Na-inherit ito sa mga magulang o sa mga genes. But it does not mean that kung you have inherited aggression from your parents, from your in your genes, it does not mean that you are on the road to being a delinquent. Mas mabuti ito. Ito yung pinakamadali kasi bata pa lang, nag-manifest na yon, nag-show na yung mga negative actions ng bata. It gives a chance for people, for parents, for authorities to reform. But kung hindi ito ma-address, ay patay. It will later on evolve. Yung aggression will lead to physical fighting and then to violence. Magiging violent na yon. Now, what is the difference between aggression and violence? Of course, in aggression, walang involved na physical contact. Yung violence is really to harm another person. Meron talagang physical contact. So, I think that's it for this week. Please go over with the slides na lang. And of course, I will try my best na magiging to improve my presentation. Medyo na-busy lang talaga sa administrative work kasi as of now, I am the current OIC department head and I am the student affairs coordinator. Ito talaga whole student body yung yung concern ko. Tapos at the same time, I am the God coordinator. So this coming April 5 to 8, even though I will be having a God seminar sa April, I will make videos in advance so that hindi tayo maiwan. Okay, so I think that's it. So see you next week and thank you. Bye bye.